Hello! It's time to do some streaming again. Today's stream's gonna be a little bit weird because I am in our new office. You might hear the acoustics are all different. And I'm in a new spot. There's no window behind me. The window is now right here. You can barely not see it. And I am also on my laptop because you can see because the screen's like shaking every time I move. Sorry about that. Haven't had time to move in my new computer here just yet. Hey, JW in the chat. Hello. Last week I didn't stream because of Nordic Game Jam, and that was that's kind of a big deal. It's a big thing. And also this new setup means all the audio stuff is broken again, probably. So let me know if you can't hear me or if stuff is out of sync or whatever. I'll try to fix that as soon as possible. But yeah, Nordic Game Jam. That's kind of a big thing. 730 something participants, as far as I know and they know. It's the biggest game jam in the world, which is kind of cool. It's also really, really big. You have no chance of speaking to even like a small part of all the participants. It's just too big, but it's cool. Like it's a different experience. I'm out of sync. Awesome. Of course I'm out of sync. How much am I out of sync? Do tell. Is it bad? Tends to be kind of bad when it happens. It's a little bit expensive, yeah. The game jam is 700 Danish crowns, but you do get all the food for the entire weekend paid for. You get like breakfast and lunch and dinner and all of that stuff, plus some other cool stuff and like coffee and tea and fruits and everything. So it's good value, but still, I mean, 700 is a lot of money, especially considering that you could cook for less at home. So I mean, it's not for everyone. How the hell does the audio even go out of sync? I don't get it. Like 2 seconds out of sync? That's awful. If I do that, does that help at all? Always with the desync. I honestly don't know what makes it be that way, because now normally I run it through some pre-processing stuff, but now there's none of that. It shouldn't be that bad. I'll make one small attempt to fix it before we get into things. This will mean that you're going to have to listen to the stream recursively for a little bit because I need to hear this. I can do that, I suppose. I think I can. I think I can adjust this. I think 200 milliseconds was a pretty good guess. It's very unclear to me if this takes effect immediately or if it's a delayed type of thing. This is me waiting for the song to catch up, or the stream. I don't think it made much difference. Maybe this is better? We'll see. I think this is going to do it. Action-packed streaming today. Again, with the audio desync. This actually looks okay, I think. That's close enough for me. Okay, so games. We're gonna make some games. I figured we'd start with looking at the game I made this weekend. Which is a sausage racing game that I have prepared for you. And it's going to start in full screen, which is going to break the streaming. So I got to fix that. And then we got to do this. Now, let's see. Here it comes. I'm gonna make sure it shows up correctly for you guys. Yeah. So this is Gran Chorizo. It's a sausage racing game. My controller is caught on something. But yeah, sausage racing game. And it is supports up to 8 players, 4 people on the keyboard and 4 people on controllers. It could really be any number of people on controllers, but there's a limit to everything. And it works a little bit like this. No, sorry. Here we go. I'm gonna add 2 different colors. I'm just gonna play with 1 player because I am just 1 person. So you race along this track. The camera gets a little bit weird if you're not keeping up, but I've never made a racing game before, so that's why I opted to make this. Normally you drive straight down there, but I'm gonna drive over here and mess with the blue guy for a little bit. So you can see it has wobbly sausage physics, and this is actually running a Box 2D simulation because I like being mean to myself and forcing myself to code physics. But it's pretty cool. If we turn off the very loud music. Hey, Canonito. I don't know if I can... No, that's not working anymore. So one of the drawbacks of this being a Game Jam game is that it's held together with like duct tape and happy feelings. But you can actually race, and it will keep track of who's in the lead, and it will also know when you finish and stop the game, so I can't drive anymore. That's what I made this weekend. Pretty happy with that. Kind of cool. Made it mostly by myself. Had some help with a guy who made some sound effects for it. Which was nice of him. And maybe like next week or something, we'll do a little review of how that game fits together. It's like that could be a fun thing to do. But if we're gonna get down to business, as it were, what switches does the keyboard have? The loudest kind, I will tell you. This is not, normally I switch out my keyboard when I'm streaming because my normal keyboard is so loud. Now I don't have my other keyboard, so you're stuck with the super loud keyboard. But normally this is the video game we make together. And we had a little playtesting session 2 weeks ago, last stream, where I forced my friends to play it for a couple of hours. And that was, it went well. I'm really happy with that. They actually kept on playing for longer than I wanted them to. So that's a good sign. they seem to be enjoying themselves too. One of the problems that sort of appeared was that if you're playing a multiplayer game, one of like a good strategy is to just hang around here, around the black hole, and just wait for someone to show up with an asteroid. So if another player joins, and they go over here and they do all the work to prepare this asteroid, and once they come close here, I'll just attach to it and drill into it. And when it splits, it's now my asteroid, and the other player is just scammed out of his asteroid, which is like that's a fair strategy. I still don't want to rule that strategy out, but one of the problems that occurs with this is that it's a really sort of, it's not quite griefing, but it's a low risk, medium reward strategy for whoever's just hanging around the black hole. And whoever has to go out and get stuff, they're much more. They've spent a much more. They're much more invested in this asteroid, and some other person can just come along and destroy it. But one thing that does happen is that if you do this and you just hang around the black hole a ton, you're much more likely to get caught in the black hole, because you're gonna have to be a little bit greedy and go for the asteroid at the very last moment. And right now there's no punishment to going into the black hole. You can just immediately respawn and do it again. So I am considering, at the very least, add a little bit of punishment to going into the black hole. I'm not entirely clear on what I want that punishment to be. I mean, the obvious choice would be score. Just removing either like a fixed amount of your score, or maybe even a percentage, like you lose 10% of your score when you go into the black hole. So it's a relative punishment. But that's also really hard to explain, because like a fixed number is a fixed number, and it will cost you 100,000 every time you go into the black hole. Something like that. Another thing that came up, unfortunately I forgot to sync my notes. I put them in the version control, but I never added them. So we got the griefing, and that's not the one I want. This is the one I want. We got the griefing, and we got another issue is negative score. So if you mess up really badly right now, you can get a negative score. And even more so if someone messes with you, which happens when there are multiple players. So if you get a really bad asteroid like this one, this is negative 230,000 points. If I touch that, someone else can come along and just shove it into the black hole, which is fun. I like that. But that means I go to negative 230,000 points. Interestingly, I got 229, and the asteroid said, well, either way, negative scoring isn't really fun, because it just punishes whoever's currently losing anyway. So there's really no need for that. So I'm gonna, because it's such an easy thing to fix, I'm gonna make sure that your score will never actually go below 0. So that's going to be our first order of business. Add this score, blah, blah, blah. So we go if it's less than 0, it will now be 0. It shouldn't be more than that, really. One line of code. Nice and easy. Burn. Let's try this one. Boom. Still 0 score. one thing that still happens is that if my score is 0, it won't show up in the corner, because that's like I'm not really keeping track of who's active or not. All the players are active, but if they have no score, they won't show up. So if I do... Normally that one that escaped would have given me a negative score, but that would give me 920,000 points. This will give me negative 240. So this should put me down to like 700, 600 something. All good. So that's a fairly easy fix. And I suppose we might as well commit that as we go along. Repository needs cleanup. Well, blah, blah, blah. This is a change I made before we started. Because I'm on a different computer, my libraries aren't perfectly in sync between them, so this kind of stuff needs to be done sometimes. No negative scores. Hello, Demlar. Welcome to the chat. Unfortunately, this means that the following alert that would make the funny sound and show up on the screen is also disabled today because of reasons. But let's think a little bit about the punishment for going in the black hole. There are several things also that I discovered with the black hole, because typically when I'm testing, it's just me. But one thing that the black hole does is that if something is going into the black hole, like say this asteroid right here, it's going into the black hole. As soon as the black hole has it, I can go in here without risk of myself getting caught. And once you're 4 people juggling 4 asteroids or more each, plus your 4 ships, that means that there's like 8 things that potentially could go into the black hole at one point, meaning that it actually sort of becomes like a line, like a waiting line to go into the black hole. So I could also change so the black hole will grab everything that goes within range, which also would maybe punish the hanging around the black hole, stealing people's stuff strategy. I'm gonna make a note of that as well. I don't forget anything. And that actually brings me to think of another thing that I discovered is when there's so much stuff going on with the black hole, it's really hard to tell who got the score for that particular asteroid. Because it is a little bit exciting when you're like, oh man, this is a really big asteroid that I've spent so much time working on, and someone comes along and tries to steal it from you. And then it goes into the black hole like at the very last moment, and you're not quite sure who got the score. And because you're not paying attention to your numbers at the time, it's really hard to know who's getting paid for this. So I'm thinking I'm going to make an effect that's like that goes to your score, so you can see that like the asteroid went away and something goes to your score that will tell you that it happened or that you scored it. Can you get squashed between asteroids? Zombie Rand is asking. No. I can do this just fine. Your ship is indestructible, basically. There's nothing that can hurt you. So I'm going to call this issue better feedback for scoring. So negative score is already like dealt with. Next up, I suppose, is either the black hole grabbing multiple things. I think the black hole has some funky code for grabbing things. Because it's actually... it's like a multi-step process, the attraction. First, like it drags something in, and then it will like have it spin there for a while, and then makes it go away. So it might be a little bit hairy to do multiple ones at one time. I'm going to make a little thing for actually punishing or giving like a negative score for getting sucked into the black hole, because that's easy. And we like easy things. Attract, handle, attract, complete, handle, eat, complete. Here we go. So if the attractee is an asteroid, it will do this. So owner would be, right, so we'll do this instead. Else if and we'll do it that way. I don't know why I copied that line, because I'm replacing every word of it, but almost every word. So it's value, get value. Oh, right. So purity is going to be 0. Value is going to be I wonder which we should put this under. Black hole. Score. Punish. Something like that. I hope my keyboard isn't like ear-splittingly loud. All right. I think I'm multiplying this with something funky, but we'll set it to 1,000 and we'll see what that does. That's going to be negative 1,000. So owner is also going to be player. And maybe this should like come with a different sound effect, but we'll start this way. Float should be int. Can do that. So I made it harder for myself by disallowing negative scores now, because that means I'm gonna have to get an asteroid first. 440,000 points. That's my kind of points. And then we'll go in. That worked. Hey, Taloketo. My keyboard indeed does sound like a retro typewriter. It, in many ways, feels like one as well. I did make a game for the Nordic Game Jam. I actually showed it earlier before you arrived, I guess. It's a sausage racing game. It's kind of cool. So let's make it minus 100 and see what that does. It's funny that I can't remember how my own scoring works, but I tend to forget between times. You are coming with me. Into the pit with you. 600 something points. Yeah, that is actually the same scale as the numbers. So that really big asteroid. Hey, Arc Games. Welcome to the stream. Just gonna figure out what like a good punishment for getting sucked into the thing would be. This asteroid is worth 580,000, 650,000. You can probably get that up a little bit. 720. Cut this crap off. Here we go. Almost 800,000. I think 500,000 at the very least would be a fair punishment for getting into the let's make it 500. That's probably really harsh, but I like it that way. Now actually making someone else go into the asteroid would also be, or into the black hole would also kind of be a viable strategy. This really doesn't like perfectly solve this problem. It's still kind of a good strategy, but we'll get there. So this better feedback for scoring. I don't know how to do that. Maybe I should steal some code from another project. I think that's what I'm going to do. I have some stuff. This little baby right here, the score line. That there, and then we're going to need the Bezier curve as well. Just redo these imports because it's going to be, we got that one, we don't need that one, we don't need that one. Color, we probably need index. I can't even remember what index is. What do you do? Oh, some kind of delay thing, we don't need that. What's the state for? I can imagine what it's for. Okay, probably need that. Don't need that, don't need that. Yes, import that thing. Jump over and get these score duration, score num dots, score. It's always a good strategy just to steal your old code, or in my case, new code, because this was probably actually written after. The other game. Let's put it right here. We don't need that. Probably don't need that. We definitely don't need that. Rip. Oh, here's another class we're gonna need. Oh my god. Hey, Talketo, you figured it out. You win. And yes, Minority Game Yam Game is actually available on the internet for your video gaming pleasure. Did I not manage to copy that? That's annoying. Shane renderer, come with me. Here we go. Don't need that. No, probably no. Yes, maybe yes. Render Shane. Don't need that. I can paste a link for you guys. It's gapefukt.itch.io. Here it is. Link goes in the chat. What? Why is my name all messed up? Okay. What the hell? Does my name show up like that for real? Everything is broken forever. Is that so? Try it again. I wasn't even aware I could have people that were not logged in post in the chat. Try that. There we go. And just to make it abundant, like extra clear, this is the URL right here. You can play it. It is local multiplayer only, though, so you can play it by yourself if you want to, but it's not as much fun. So score line. This is me doing stuff like this is how you can tell that I have not prepared whatsoever. This is all happening Live and direct. I'm trying to make it seem like a positive thing that I'm terribly unprepared. So I have a score lines thing here. Let's see if I want to keep these maybe above everything. Maybe not above the players though. And then handle player activate, spawn asteroid, handle edge frame. This is some old crap. We'll get rid of this. Don't know why that's still here. Timeout flash. Is this actually ever used? It is. Interesting. So now we gotta figure out a way for... As opposed to black hole is actually dispatching some type of event when this is happening. No, it's not. It's the player dispatching some type of event when this is happening. Okay, it's the score dispatching some type of event. Here we go. Yes, it does. Event change. That's very unspecific though. Suppose we can work with that. So if in the game we go... I remember if I actually create a new black hole every time. I do. It's a little bit annoying. Oh, wait though, because it is the score that is actually dispatching the event, so that should be fine. So somewhere around like here, we'll do a score add event listener, event change. Put this down at the end because it's not very important. Here, maybe. So this will trigger whenever somebody scores. Or get sucked up by the black hole. Class not found playfield. I can see that happening. No. I probably missed a lot of things. We don't need that. We don't need that. We do need these, but not for now. Need that. Did you all go play my game now? I hope you did. Can't find Shane. That's fine. We don't need you anyway. Oh my. It is slowly getting to where it might compile one day. Sound manager, color. I don't have a color class. Is it in here? Or colors. That makes sense. Some old junk lying around. Gran Chorizo runs well under Wine. That's good to hear. I could actually do a Linux build one day, but again, my computer that has all that stuff on it is not connected at the moment. There might be one day. But if it runs under Wine, that kind of... Did I just remove a bunch of code that I was actually using? I don't think I did. Use it, I mean. Nope. That's fine. Let's see, it might actually run now. It did. Fascinating. So now we gotta... I gotta make sure this runs. That's what I was trying to do originally. So I want the callback or the event thing for the game class. Let's see if that works. Just gonna shove any random thing into the... Someone made... Oh, I remember. So what's happening is that this is triggering... I don't know if you can see the trace output here. Maybe you can. Yeah. So this is triggering every second because it's updating the timer. We're gonna have to redo that a little bit, but that it needs redoing anyway, so we can just might as well deal with it. So we'll do a public. I'll just do a class score event. And we'll do different events for the time and for everything else. So we'll make a public static bar. It's called score add. And this is going to be a flash style event. So we'll just do something like that. I think those are the 4 different things that can happen. And some of them will actually have some more information to go with them. So yeah, we'll deal with that later, because now we're in a situation where the score is one thing. It's like kept separated from everything else, and we got the GUI, like the graphical user interface, which is another thing that's also kept separate from everything else. And then we got a third thing, which is I got lost in my thought, but either way, yeah, we got the score lines, who are also a separate thing. So now we got the score line needs to be told by the score thing. It's like, hey, appear, do your thing, and then the score line needs to find out where it's going. But we'll take that. We'll deal with that as we get to it. So now we got to make sure that it's dispatching all the correct events for things that are happening. So we got a dispatch event. So this is clearly when the score changes. This is going to be a score event of the type score add, I suppose. This should be different depending on we'll do this a little bit ugly. So if value is bigger than 0, it's going to be an add. If it's not, it's going to be a subtract. Although I'm not even sure. Let's do that. I don't think I even need to separate those two. So get rid of that. How do I like working in Haxi? It is it's a cool programming language. I like it. It's also gaining in popularity, which suits me very well because more people using it makes it have more cool stuff. So I like that very much. So now we got score change here. We got update. This is going to be the time thing. This is going to be score event, score timer. This is going to be score. Bob Ross of coding. I like that very much. Thank you. So now we know the different things that are happening. Now we're just gonna find all the old listeners for it, and hopefully that was the only place I used event change. So this is one. This is the one I wrote just a few moments ago. Score event score change. We got this one. This is for the GUI. This is going to need all three of them, I think, because does this have the timer too? We'll see. Let's look at the function first. Set score probably doesn't actually. So score event score change. So far so good. That's I don't know why that's still there. And I suppose this also needs score reset. Then it's just going to do the same thing. It's just going to update the numbers. It should be fine. Were those the only two? My stream keeps buffering? That's not good. It's not on my end, as far as I can tell. Hope not. I'm off center. Why didn't you guys tell me? Very, very important. Let's try and run that, see what happens. Unexpected colon. It's nice to hear, or it's unfortunate that you are having problems, Invisible Man, but at least most other people are not. Yeah, make sure that Twitch is also happy. Turn that off. The game does run. That's good. Oh no, I'm re-streaming myself. Use that. That's the one I want. Drive round, that seems to work. That thing seems to work. Did it trace? Someone made a score. That's good. Put this guy in here. Yep. Yeah, Invisible Man, I appreciate you informing me. It could have been on my end. Could be that I'm streaming to high bitrate for people's connections too. So now I've got all this stuff hooked up, meaning that in the score class we can start doing some other cool stuff. So with a score event, we can send along some useful information. So we're probably going to want who scored this, and how much. And these are all going to be read-only because these are not going to change after the fact. That's probably a good start. So now we got who, player, and then we got value. It's going to be an integer. That's all good. Now we got to send this information along as well. We're going to get some compile time errors for that. So that's good. Player and then value. And this score, the time thing is not going to have a value or a player. So it's just going to be null. And that's going to be 0. Same thing for this, also null and 0. Seems to be compiling in an orderly fashion. So now, in game, we got our little thing here. We can go, someone made a score. Can go var score. We can call a line. I suppose there's two different things we can do. We could either have the score go to your ship, or go to your score, go to your number in the corner. I don't know which one's better. One thing's for sure, it's going to start at the black hole. Do I have a reference to the black hole? I don't. I think I'm just going to be a little cheater and do that. Because right now we only have the one black hole. So we don't need to worry about stuff like that. And we'll do... We'll send it to the player first. Did I not? Score event, public var. It's called who? I think player makes more sense. Did I not rename it all over? No, I didn't. That's better. We've got player. That's also old. We don't need color because we got that through the player. You need the curve. And we'll make this start at black hole. All this stuff is probably fine. Then we're going to place a control thing. I don't know what to do with this. We'll do that for now. And then it's going to end at the player. Oh. It's going to end at the player position. Why do I keep messing things up? It's going to end at wherever the player is. That's going to be cool. And then we'll do player X and then Y plus maybe 100. Unknown identifier color. Think that's the way it works. Yeah, I'm sorry, Invisible Man. You can catch this on YouTube later. Or maybe one day when I'm a grown streamer, I'll get the Twitch quality adjustment thing. Okay, so that was maybe a bad idea. No? Oh, I know. I need to actually update this thing too, because it's not rendering right now, it's just adding them. We don't need that. We don't need that. Blah, 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 blah. We'll try it, see what happens. Hey, did you see it? It was really fast. Score, duration. Okay, so this is not great. Let's make these score line. I've been standing by the score line. So that was 0.6 seconds. Let's make it 4 seconds, just like overly slow so we can see what's going on. Into the hole. It's not super snappy right now, and it's too thick, but it does kind of work. Escape. One thing that also happens is that it doesn't really do the full thing. It just ends, and I'm not entirely sure why that is. Let's commit some stuff to version control. That's always a good idea. So this is just some old library I tried using ages ago. That I never did use, so that there's no reason for having that around. Clipper is the name of that. Then we got a bunch of other stuff. I guess it's mostly the same change set. Score lines added, but not really working. So, why? Just look at this. I don't even know what this means. I wrote it at some point. Probably don't need that. Do this. Try and see what's going on. This is going to trace a whole bunch of things. That's fine. So this is what we're interested in. So that's all things we don't need. So this is for every frame it updates. So this is going to be the first, or like one of the parts. This is going to be the next part. So this is the progress it's at. This all seems fine. Like it's slowly working its way up to like 0.15. Then when that starts to become a thing, it adds a third node. So that all seems fine. Then eventually the last node, this is all like dynamic depending on how long it's going to be. The last node will add an extra part to itself. Actually, yeah, it's doing the shadow as well, which is going to be confusing. So it's actually doing two line drawing things at once. So, but it's not tracing that one, so I could just ignore that. Sorry. Remove it anyway, just to be safe. So this is fine. This is like the start of the line, or like I guess the start of the line is like 10% of the way there, and the end of the line is 40% of the way there. But what's going to be a little bit annoying is as we get to the end of everything, it's the start of the line becomes 1, but the end of the line is still not arrived, so it goes until it's like 75% of the way there, which is not what we want for this particular use case. So I suppose actually I think this just makes it not happen if the line is short or too short or something. Or blah 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 num dots. So we do this. I wonder why the hell this is D, by the way. This is all incredibly confusing. Get progress, and then we're gonna do it's going to be Something like that. Goodbye, invisible man. Is this ever actually used? It's used here. Come with me into the black hole. Zoop. That's more like it. I wonder why it wasn't like that before. So one thing I can do now, because it's like a Bezier curve, is that I can mess with like the handles on it, or like the control points. See if my computer can do this without exploding. So we have, where are you? Here. You have a line like this. It's going to go out like that. And it is going to have these handles. Like these are things that I have in code now that I can mess with. And it's not going to be a filled path though. Stroke, blue, fill, none, width a little bit more. That's never. Are you drunk, Photoshop? That one. Yeah, that's the one. Well, it doesn't matter all that much. We'll just make it a little bit less. Still a little bit too much. Like that, maybe. Oh, come on. Is it giving me like a... Okay. Whatever, Photoshop. This is what I get for trying to do vectors in Photoshop. Suffering. This will do, just to illustrate my point. So now we got these handles that we can mess with. Functionally, same thing. So this handle needs to go in some kind of direction. I'm thinking it might go like 90 degrees off to where the player is. And this, for just to make things interesting, might go 90 degrees off in the other direction. So you get this snaky kind of thing, or maybe somewhere in between. That's like a pleasant little twisty curly thing. This is going to involve math, though. And it's like that, that's not quite enough, but because both of these things are going to be moving, or the black hole's not going to be moving, but it could be. But but the player is going to be moving, so we've got to recalculate this all the time. But that's fine, we can do that. Dominion asks, I don't get it, how you get Photoshop things to work in code. Bezier curves are math thing more than anything else. They're pretty cool. Actually, I might have something cool to show. Bezier test. Yeah, here we go. This is something I made when I coded these originally. So the basic concept of a Bezier curve, or however you say it, I'm not actually entirely sure, is that you have 4 points. So this is a start point. This is the end point. Then you have 2 control points, which are these guys here. You can put them wherever. They can overlap. They can be like way off if you want to, or be anywhere, really. And then you do something called linear interpolation. So here I've got 1 point. Here I've got another point. Between these two, there's a line. And then I interpolate this particular point right here. It goes from 0 up to 1, which is going to be all the way up here. And that gives us this point that keeps moving back and forth. Then I do the same thing between this point and this point. You can see this guy is going back and forth, just in a straight line, nothing fancy about it. And then a third time for this line right here. And this is just to visualize how it all fits together. But then now I go from having 4 points to having a set of 3 points. So I got this point, I got this point, I got this point, all on the yellow line. Then I do the same thing again. I interpolate between this point and that point. I get this blue guy right here that is moving in, well, I guess it's kind of like a curve right now. So it's a little bit hard to explain with words, but I think you get it. And then between this yellow point and this yellow point, I do another blue point that's also interpolating between the two of them. And then in a third step, I take the 2 blue points and I do a straight linear interpolation between those two as well. So it's like recursive. And then I actually draw that as the white line, and that gives me the final curve. And it's not that hard. It's kind of fun to program because it's a little bit tricky, but it's really not that complicated. Especially not if you take the time to set up like a test case like this. It gets a lot easier. And you can see like if you flip it over, you get this funky S curve. So this is what I'm using to do the line that goes to the player. I could have done it with particles as well. That would probably have worked just as well, and maybe even been a little bit easier. But I had this lying around, and it's kind of fun little sample to do. So these are the Bezier curves you get in every like vector program, and also Photoshop, even though it's not strictly a vector program. And this is how they work. And then you can do quadratic Bezier curves, which has more handles, and you can do all kind of funky things, like adding more iterative steps to it. And then this only works for 2 handles and 2 control points. Then you can add more handles and more control points to have like a long continuous curve, but it all builds off this basic principle, which is pretty cool. So now I got to figure out where to place these control points. What's a good way of doing this? I want an angle that's like facing away from the player. I suppose there's like a dot product fashion of doing this, but I can't be bothered, so we'll just do it. We'll just do it with trigonometry. This should give us the relative angle between the player and the black hole, and then we want to subtract 90 degrees from that, which is going to be half pi. That should give us something, and then we'll do I got a crazy person outside the window. And then we'll do cosine and the sine for this angle. This should give us something. I'm just going to go do one thing real quick, and I will be back into. Sorry about that. We were doing Bezier curves and angles and stuff. This guy is going into the hole. Maybe. Ah. I got a good score there for killing myself, or like a line for killing myself. Gotta make them thinner, that's for sure. Come on. You can probably exaggerate that a little bit more. We'll make it 100. And then for the player, I don't know what to do. I suppose we could just do the way you're facing, so like it would go into the back part of your ship. I think that's a good way of doing it, which means you can kind of mess with it to I'm gonna make it a little bit thinner while I remember. So for player body, actually no, I can just do rotation. Do player rotation divided by this is going to be in degrees, and I want it in radians, times, let's say 100 here too. That'll do something. It's trying to check something as we're doing this a little bit in parallel. Mute this real quick so you don't have to listen to me twice. This goes into the thing. Okay, so that felt a little bit weird. Maybe not the best idea. Plus it was 180 degrees off. I suppose I could also figure out the angle when it happens and then not change it as it progresses. Just do that at the start. Yeah, having that change as you're moving is not a good look. So it's going to be four values, x and y, 1 and 2. So we'll just make this happen here. This happen here. Lots of people knocking on my window today. It's a good thing I have co-workers that can go open the window while I'm streaming. It's close now, guys. It's close. And then we do Control to X, Control to Y. That should be something, at the very least. And that will probably be, this will probably be the last thing we do today. Because I got places to be. Now I gotta speed it up a little bit to make it feel nice. I think the other game was actually running at a different time scale, so it wasn't quite as fast. Because it was 0.6 when I brought the code over. But that might have been running slower or something, or faster, I guess. Then comes the stuff with making sure that it's not actually doing that when you get a negative score. And other things, but this is a start. I suppose I should test it with a different colored player as well, just to make sure. This is an heavy asteroid. Boom. That really does work. I'm quite pleased with that. Enter the master password. Okay. It's interesting that it didn't want that before. So what have we done? We have made score lines actually work. It was pretty good for a couple of hours of work. So I suppose what's left? I guess this is like it's getting to the point where I need to play test all the time, ideally, but that's not going to happen because it's too much work. We didn't do the multiple grab for the black hole. We'll see if that's needed. Might be. I might prepare for it and then see if I use it or not. We did do the better feedback for the scoring. We did negative scores for getting sucked in. That's also done. We did prevent getting a negative score, like accumulated negative score. So that's pretty good for today. And as normal, this is going on YouTube in a couple of days, ideally. Once Twitch decides that it will post the video and then it needs to upload to YouTube and this and that. But you can see this video again if you want to. And I'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much for hanging out.